Hello, my name is Jacob, screen name Forgotten Hope. Welcome to the second part in our tutorial series where we discuss how to use Planetary Interaction. In the first part of our tutorial series, we discussed the things you needed in order to be successful with Planetary Interaction. This included skills, ships, and the user interface associated with PI. If you have no background with Planetary Interaction in EVE Online, I recommend watching the first part of this tutorial series linked in the description. In this second part of the tutorial series, we'll be going over some helpful resources to ease the workflow associated with researching and developing a successful planetary operation. The first resource we'll look at is the Evelopedia article on EVE Online Planetary Interaction. This page contains a wealth of information in written form on everything we're going over in these tutorials. If you're curious about anything that we're talking about in further detail, this would be a great starting point to reference. The second resource we're going to discuss is eveplanets.com. This website is a great tool for locating resources, surmising what resources are available in a given system, and aiding the planning of creating a workflow going from basic resources to more advanced commodities. We'll be using this website a little bit more once we get to the third part of our tutorial series. We'll be doing workflow and PI involving multiple planets. So let's go and undock and build our first actual PI colony. Now remember, you still want to be someplace safe while doing this. You do still have local up, it's just on a different client, on a different monitor. So now we go to the top left corner, select orbital bodies, and pick the planet that we'll be using to create our demo colony. Now, like in the previous tutorial, we will use the heat map to locate the best location to start our colony. Then go to our build menu, then select and place our command center. Once placed, go to the top corner and select submit. Now open up your command center by double-clicking its pin. Now upgrade your command center to the highest level your skills allow. Now again, select submit. Next, you'll want to place our extractor control unit near the hotspot of the resource we are trying to gather. Next, we'll select submit and double-click the extractor control unit. This will bring up the extractor control unit survey program. On the right-hand side, you see the different resources available to be gathered. The middle will display a histogram of the resources being gathered over time per cycle. And on the left-hand side, you see the number of active control unit heads. And bottom left, you see the duration of the survey program. A pretty standard configuration is to use all 10 heads and have it set to 24-hour duration. Once set, you'll want to select a resource you're planning on gathering. This will bring back the heat map, at which point you'll want to drag the extractor heads over the resource distribution. Once placed, make any kind of fine adjustments necessary so that they don't overlap, as this will decrease the yield. Then select Install Program and select Submit. Next, you'll want to select and build our spaceports, one near the command center, another near the extractor control unit. The final structure we're placing is the processors that are needed to refine the goods into the next stage. We want to place 6 arrayed around the spaceport near the command center. Now that we have everything placed, next we'll want to create links by right-clicking and selecting Create Link on a structure, and then selecting the structure we want to create a link with. We'll be creating links between our extractor head and each of the processors to their respective starports. So this means we have a processing node and a gathering node, with a spaceport for each. In this case, we'll be linking the two with a planetary link. In many situations, though, this will not be available because as you have a colony, you'll end up having to move the space station and the head around to where the resources are, as resources will deplete over time. And again, don't forget to submit your changes. Next, you'll want to create routes for the resources being gathered by the extractor control head to the spaceport, and for the processors to and from their spaceport. Also, don't forget to upgrade the link between the extractor control unit and the starport that it connects to. Now, there are 2 tabs in the Structures menu that are relevant to creating links. One is the Routes tab, and the other is the Products tab. From the extractor control unit to the spaceport, you'll want to create a link using the Products tab. From the spaceport, you'll want to create links to the processors using the Routes tab. Before making routes to the processors, you'll need to assign a schematic for the resource you're gathering. You do this by double-clicking the processor and then selecting from the list of available schematics. If you're not sure which schematic to use, select Show Info on the resource you're gathering and then go to Production Info. Then go back to the processor and select the corresponding schematic. Do this for each processor. Don't forget to route the product coming out of the processors as well. And then submit to save the changes you have made. Last step is to route the resources from the starports to the processors. In this case, we'll be routing from the gathering node to the processors directly. However, if that is not an available option because they're not linked, you'll have to export it to the customs office using the starport and then back down to the other starport, allowing you to process them at the processing node. Make sure to double check that resources are routed to all of your processors. And again, submit your changes. Last thing is I just want to touch for a moment on how to export your materials to the customs office. Now, to do this, you select the starport, and then the first tab will show you a list of items in it. You select it to export and then submit, after which you can pick up the materials by opening up the customs office with a hauler and then dragging it into your own cargo. This concludes the second part of the tutorial series. In the third part, we'll show what you can do with one character using 5 planets. Thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the second part of this tutorial series.